Shri Rup Sanatana Bhagavana Shri Jiva Baladasragana Shadgo Swami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Madhuradam Ki Jai. Vrindavadam Ki Jai. Mathurdam Ki Jai. Vrindam Ki Jai. Ki Jai. Ayodhya Ki Jai. ISKCON Ljubljana Ki Jai. Gandhamani Ki Jai. Gunvani Ki Jai. Srimad Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimad Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Gaur Prahladananda Swami Rani Bhakti. Swami Rani Bhakti. Swami Rani Bhakti. Swami Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishupad Paramhangsa Parivadakacharya Asatara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slavas of Rani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi Om Agyanatvanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Pradina Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vasakan Zvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchina Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Chakapa Drivyascha Kripa Sindhuvivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shadwaita Gadadhar Shivastiti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 Chapter 13 Dhritarashtra quits home Text number 11 Apina Suridastata Pandava Krishna Devata Drishta Shrutava Yadava Swapurnyam Sukha Asate Apina Suridastata Pandava Krishna Devata Drishta Shrutava Yadava Sapuryam Sukham Asate Ashnute Apina Suridastata Pandava Krishna Devata Drishva Shrutaya Vadava Sapuryam Sukham Asnate. Ladies, Apina Dastata Pandava Krishna Devata Drishta Shrutaya Vadava Sapuryam Sukamasate Apina Suridastata Bandava Krishna Devata Drishta Shuta Vayarava Swapuryam Sukham Asate. Api, whether, na, are, surida, well-wishers, tata, oh my uncle, bandava, friends, Krishna Devata, those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. Drishta, by seeing them, Shuta, or either Yadava, the descendants of Yadu, Swapuryam, along with their residential Sukham Asate, if they are all happy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Shri Krishna. You might have seen or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Please repeat. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Purport, the particular word Krishna Devata that is, those who are always enwrapped in service of Lord Krishna is significant. The Yadavas and the Pandavas who are always wrapped in the thought of the Lord Shri Krishna and his different transcendental activities are all pure devotees of the Lord like Vidura. Vidura left home in order to devote himself completely to the service of the Lord. But the Pandavas and the Yadavas were always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna. There is no difference in their pure devotional qualities. Either remaining at home or leaving home, the real qualification of a pure devotee is to become wrapped in the thought of Krishna favorably. That is, knowing well that Lord Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead. Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shushupal, and other demons like them, were always wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, but they were absorbed in a different way, namely unfavorably, or thinking him to be a powerful man only. Therefore, Kamsa and Shushupal are not on the same level as pure devotees like Vidura, the Pandavas, and the Yadavas. Maharaj Yudhisthira was always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna and his associates at Dwarka. Otherwise, he could not have asked all about them from Vidura. Maharaj Yudhisthira was therefore on the same level of devotion as Vidura, although engaged in the state affairs of the kingdom of the world. Text again. Api na suridastata pandava Krishna devata trishta shuta va yadava swapuryam sukham asnute. Translation. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, are always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskyadyade Siddharane. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in summarizing the Bhagavad Gita on different places, but in the 18th chapter, in the verse that's repeated twice, because out of all the some billions of verses in the Vedic literature, the Bhagavad Gita is a summary of the entire Vedic literature, 700 verses. And Krishna has been speaking Bhagavad Gita since time immemorial, which is a lot of times. We may read Bhagavad Gita some hundreds of times, but Krishna has spoken Bhagavad Gita, he knows it quite well, unlimited times, practically speaking. So there he summarizes the Bhagavad Gita, the message in the last verses in the 18th chapter, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru Mamai Vaishasi Satyam Te Prati Jani Priyosi Me. Always think of me. So this is our purpose of Krishna consciousness, to become conscious of Krishna. Any questions? That's the summary. But to become conscious of Krishna, there's a process that Krishna keeps on repeating again and again. Manama bhava madbhakto. So not just to think about Krishna, but bhava, with some feeling, positive feeling, as explained here, loving feelings. Manmana bhava madbhakto, to become Krishna's devotee. Krishna tells Arjuna that his preliminary qualification for him for Arjuna to hear Saevayam mayatedya yogo prokta paratana bhakto sime sakase sahasram hietad uttamam. Because you are my devotee now, and you are my friend. Therefore Krishna will speak Bhagavad Gita to us. And when we're reading Bhagavad Gita, we should do it in the mood of trying to become Krishna's friend and his devotee. First we have to try to be favorable towards Krishna and not reject him. That why should we accept Bhagavad Gita? Why should we accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? At least theoretically, we should try to accept Krishna as theoretically the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's called faith. And in that faithful reading Bhagavad Gita, we can make some progress in understanding Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is simply meant to convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that we should dedicate our body, our mind, and our words to him. Because as soon as we don't dedicate our body, mind, and words 100% to Krishna, then to whatever percent we're not dedicating to Krishna, then we're covered by the illusory energy. Krishna bahir mukha bhogavanchatare dikatastat tare japatiya dare. So as soon as we turn our face away from Krishna, then Maya slaps us down back into the illusory energy. And how do we know when we're slapped down into the material energy? Because we misidentify ourselves with this gross and subtle body, and we think we're gaining something here, and we think we're losing something. And therefore, we're anxious to gain something and disturbed over losing something. But actually, we have nothing to gain here in the material world, because there's nothing in the material world but the earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, combined in different ways that make it seem like there's something valuable to get, or something valuable that we might lose. But actually, it's just combinations and permutations of the natural energy, which are all transformations of Krishna's Brahman. So that's part of knowledge. So man mana bhava mad bhakto, we're trying to put our minds on Krishna so that we can become his devotee, devoted to him, with body, mind, and words. Madhyaji, in order to do that, we have to worship Krishna. We have to serve Krishna, actually. Yaji, we have to serve him. Namaskuru. And then we can come to the platform of some kind of feeling of being servitor of Krishna. Right now we don't have a feeling of being servitor of anything except for this gross and subtle body. The idea of being Krishna's servant is theoretical, but if we follow the process, then gradually we can develop an actual feeling of being Krishna's servant. Especially if we take part in Krishna's mission, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, to convince people that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then if we become part of that mission, then we become, Krishna is very willing to empower us to understand what's the value of that mission, because then Krishna will give us some experience of himself. We say his sweet lotus feet or his sweet service, then we can become attached to Krishna, his service, and therefore we'll become more serious about that service the more we gain some kata ruchi. Therefore it is said, Sat Krishna nama charitadi sutapta vidya pitopatapta rasanasta narochikanu kindvadarada nudinam saiva kalajushta savi bhavati tatkala mulahantri. That the holy name, form, quality, and pastimes of Krishna are transcendently sweet, just like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot relish anything sweet, it is wonderful how by simply chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within one's tongue, and one's disease of avidya, ignorance, is destroyed at the root. So we're chanting Hare Krishna, and we may not be experiencing the sweetness of the holy name, and then we may think the holy name is not sweet. But we have to become sweet to understand how sweet the holy name is. Unfortunately, we're covered by avidya or ignorance. And how do we know if we're covered by avidya or ignorance? Because we think we're this body at times. We don't have a clear understanding of my spiritual identity, what to speak of my spiritual nature, I'm not clear upon. What to speak of my spiritual identity. But we do have a spiritual nature, and we do have a spiritual identity eternally, and that's who we are. And when we are situated in that spiritual identity, our spiritual senses, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence, then everything becomes sweet in relation to Krishna, especially his holy name, which is directly Krishna himself. Then it becomes a source of endless pleasure and love and enjoyment for the soul. It's when his senses become purified of the coverings that are there because of our causes, unwillingness to dedicate ourselves to Krishna. Therefore Maya keeps us covered in proportion to our unwillingness to engage ourselves in Krishna's service. It's not that we can cheat either Maya or Krishna. They're much more powerful than we are, much more conscious than we are, and therefore there can't be any real cheating. We cheat ourselves when we're trying to cheat Krishna. So, tanama rupacharitadi sutapta vidya. So what is the solution? Tanama rupacharitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasanam anasiniyoja tishtan rajay tanuragi jananugami kalamnaya akilam itipadesha saram. So Rupa Goswami gives us the essence of all advice. If Srila Rupa Goswami was here and we asked, what's the best advice you can give me? He's given it already in the next instruction in verse number 5. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely hearing and chanting about the Lord's name, quality, and pastimes. And this way, gradually engage the tongue and the mind. One should live in Goloka, Vrindavan, and serve Krishna under the guidance of the Lord's devotees. And one should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Srila Prabhupada was asked, which resident of Vrindavan should we follow? Prabhupada said something like, I am that resident of Vrindavan we should follow. Deeply attached to his devotional service, because this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us an opportunity to become deeply attached to the service of the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to help people revive their relation with Krishna. There's nothing more than that. We're not trying to get money, we're not trying to get buildings, we're not trying to get anything, as Srila Prabhupada once wrote to me. We're simply trying to distribute transcendental knowledge, of which buildings and money and everything else can be utilized to do it, but the ultimate aim is to distribute consciousness of Krishna to others. So, the holy name, form, quality, and pastimes of Krishna, Sukirtananu, we should glorify them, engaging the tongue and the mind in doing so. In this way, Tanama Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja. That way the soul, who is practically dead, Satam Pasangam Mamavirya Sambido Bhavanti Rikarna Rasayanam Gata. That the soul, we ourselves, were practically dead. We're so much absorbed in identification with matter that we're unconscious of anything spirit. But everything is ultimately spirit and spiritual energy. But we're unconscious, and therefore this association with devotees in the mood of becoming conscious of Krishna as the aim of helping each other to do that, that's Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido, specifically about explaining the different aspects of Krishna in this world that we're living in, how everything and everyone is related to him, and how there's a spiritual world where they're engaging in pastimes with Krishna. This is Krishna's glories. Mamavirya Samvido Bhavanti. And what will happen? Bhavanti, if we do that, Bhavanti Rit, and we engage our heart, Karna, and our ear. Our ear is our intelligence. The more we engage our hearing about Krishna, the more our spiritual intelligence develops. Spiritual intelligence is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. To understand that we're not this body is preliminary and essential. To understand that we have to take shelter of Paramatma within the heart. And Paramatma is appearing before us in terms of the actual Guru and Sadhu and the Shastra. Real Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Krishna is appearing before us, and within our heart he's confirming and enlightening us what Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra are actually meaning by revealing to us the message. So that's knowledge. And what is the whole purpose? Bhagavan. To revive our relation with the Supreme Person, Krishna, as his servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. That's knowledge, and that's the whole purpose of the Hare Krishna movement, and that's the whole purpose of existence. Krishna created the material world to give us that opportunity. Otherwise, Shravam Evi Kevalam, we're just, to one degree or another, we're just wasting our time. So Vidura and the other great devotees, they're absorbed, rapt attention in Krishna, rapt thought of Krishna, because it's so sweet, it's so pleasurable, it's actually the very essence of our aspiration, what everyone is looking for. Every living entity is actually searching for Krishna, but they're just looking for him in the wrong place, that's all. They don't know they're searching for Krishna, but as it says, the whole world is full of Krishna singing, but people don't understand it. That everyone is actually dancing with Krishna, but those who are dancing following Krishna's instructions, they're dancing the rasa dance, and those who are dancing following Maya's instructions, they're dancing under the illusory energy. So that's our choice. We're how we want to dance, under illusion or under pure consciousness of Krishna, our original nature, and therefore also gradually by the attraction of Krishna become absorbed in wrath, attention from. Because everything about Krishna, from his activities with the Pandavas on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, to his dancing with the gopis, it's all the nature of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. But to enter into that mystery of Krishna's understanding, we have to have some preliminary knowledge of how to utilize our senses, how to utilize our mind, how to utilize our intelligence in Krishna's service, so that we get free from the illusory energy, at the same time become absorbed in the spiritual energy. So Bhagavad Gita is essential to understand, and after that, the example of how to apply Bhagavad Gita is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the mission of how we're going to apply Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in this age is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they're all essential learning. Goswami has given us a process of sadhana bhakti, which is part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, especially the chanting of the holy name, here in Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized that, as well as for the neophyte devotees, or even the advanced devotees still. The deity worship is there, and trying to make the atmosphere spiritual, preaching. And at the same time, try to serve the devotees, because in the spiritual world there's nothing but devotees, and there's nothing but service to the devotees. And Krishna is the servant of his devotees, and if we want to serve Krishna, we also have to learn how to serve his devotees. Otherwise, there's no question of service to Krishna. Therefore, Dhritarashtra, because he offended the devotees, he could not go back to Godhead. Or as Prabhupada said, that in one part, that he was talking about one devotee who was very attached to another leader within society, but he was not very friendly to the other devotees. So Prabhupada said, yes, Siddha Swarup, he'll go back to Godhead. Sudama will go back to Godhead. Someone will go back to Godhead. He said everyone will go, all of us will go back to Godhead. There'll be another ISKCON in the spiritual world. And then he said, except for Mr. Nara, he won't go back to Godhead. Mr. Nara was the one who tried to cheat Prabhupada out of the Juhu property. He said he's not going back to Godhead. So we should take shelter of Prabhupada, we should take shelter of instructions, try to live in this society according to those instructions, and therefore Krishna, and try to spread Krishna consciousness, try to act as the Madhyama Adhikari, who glorifies Krishna out of love, who cooperates with the devotees out of love, who helps the innocent out of love, and avoids the atheistic non-devotees out of love for Krishna also. So we have to add that to our activities, and then our lives will become successful. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Savai Manak Krishna Arvindayo Vichamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvardhane. So Maharaj Ambarish, first of all, Savai Manak Krishna Padara Vindaye. First of all, he fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So one may wonder, how do I fix my mind as the first step? Savai Manak Krishna Padara Vindaye. Padara Vindaye means the service of Krishna's lotus feet. So our mind becomes fixed on the service of Krishna's lotus feet by Ayasakta Manak Parata Yogam Yunjanmana Shaya Asam Shayam Samagramam Yata Gyasasi Tachinu. So Krishna says, hear from me. So this is the process of fixing our mind upon Krishna, hearing from Krishna. And what are we going to hear? How by practicing yoga. So we want to find out how to practice this art of yoga. And at the same time in full consciousness of me. Not only full consciousness, but with mind attached to me. So this is all we have to do. Practice yoga in full consciousness of Krishna, with mind attached to him. Then Krishna will reveal himself in full. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yujacha vayarpita manobuddhir mame vaishati samshaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time you should carry on your prescribed duty of fighting. With your mind and intelligence fixed on me, and everything engaged in me, you'll attain to me without doubt. So Arjuna was fighting. We're also engaged in a fight against the illusory energy. This is a very significant fight also. We're supposed to become warriors in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but our weapon is spreading our astras, just like in the battle Kurukshetra, they were throwing astras. Sometimes we think maybe they were just shooting arrows and, I should learn, if I become a Kshatriya, I have to learn how to shoot an arrow. But they were not just shooting arrows. The arrows were conveyances for astras. And the astras would do amazing things like Arjuna had one arrow, one astra, he'd shoot it, the astra would divide itself into 10, and each of the 10 that was divided into 10 more, each 10th, and each 10, so there would be, by shooting one arrow, he'd shoot millions of arrows. They divide themselves further and further and further. So, by that shot of one arrow, millions of arrows were shot. That's called an astra. If you can do that, then you can become a Kshatriya. Kshatriya doesn't mean you learn karate. You go on the battlefield, someone takes a pin and hits you with the pin and you're dead. Like Balaram, he's a real Kshatriya. He took a piece of kusha grass, he hit someone with it, Rama Harshan, and he killed him with a piece of grass. That's a Kshatriya. So, but we have an astra. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishna, Sango Pangastra Parsham, Jagnai Samkirtana Prayara Yanti Hisamedasa. Then this astra is Pangastra. The devotees are shooting the astra by chanting Hare Krišna and distributing transcendental literature and prasadam. This is our weapons in this age, to kill ignorance. We're not trying to kill people because people are already dead. We don't have to transfer them from one body to the next because it wouldn't make any difference in their consciousness. But we're trying to kill people's ignorance by this distribution of the holy name, transcendental knowledge, and the prasadam. So we have to be prepared to become soldiers in the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and fight with ignorance to defeat it so that this world can actually become Vaikuntha rather than the hellish place it's being converted into by people who are shooting their weapons of ignorance through the internet, through whatever, they're using for the Amazon.com. They're shooting millions of astras full of ignorance, shoot astras full of Krishna consciousness. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. There was this mood was there during Srila Prabhupada's times that we are going out and to preach and save the world, and how to revive it because it doesn't seem like it's there anymore.
Well, it's somewhere there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about Krishna. At least amongst ourselves, we're trying to hear about Krishna. So it's there. Whether we go out and it's not that we're trying to save the world and forget about ourselves. We don't count. The world counts. Whoever the world is, they count. So it's there. How much we're enthused to do it? Well, we have certain misconceptions because Srila Prabhupada was here. He was powerful enough to clear up by his presence and by his enthusiasm his knowledge, clear up some of the misconceptions that arose. But it's not that he could clear up everything. It's not that everyone was going out in book distribution or chanting Hare Krishna purely out of love for Krishna. There were if it was true, then we would have a lot of Mahabhagavats in our movement right now. But, so, Krishna Prabhupada was there, and he's still here. But one of the things is we think he's not here anymore. Just like we think Krishna is not in our heart, and we can do whatever we want when he's not there. Maybe it's Chaturmasya, we think Krishna is sleeping, so I have 4 months of doing whatever I want, because Krishna is not going to notice he's asleep. No, Krishna is there. Prabhupada's here. The question is whether we recognize Prabhupada as being here. So we can't say, you have to recognize Prabhupada is here. We have to recognize individually ourselves and follow his instructions, and then we can become the light that can guide others to whatever enlightenment we have. So rather than worry about or complain that no one's going out distributing the holy name, distributing, whatever is to the extent they should, that is, we should do it ourselves to the best we can. And then Krishna will take care of the rest. After all, they're all his eternal servants. He wants everyone to engage, but he wants us to engage too. So we're fortunate enough to understand the necessity to engage, and we're very fortunate. But we shouldn't become envious of others, saying, oh, you're a fool, you're a rascal, you're not like me. But we're just fortunate because if we have that intelligence of the value of it, then we should do it, and then maybe if we can inspire others to do it so much, but at least if we're doing it, then we'll get the benefit. As far as the future goes, gradually misconceptions will go away. We'll understand that Prabhupada is still here, and we'll understand the necessity of understanding and following not only his it's not just his message, but it's the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of our whole disciple succession. It's the desire of Krishna. This movement is the desire of Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So when we understand how sweet they are, how loving they are, then we become inspired to do it ourselves, to try to participate in this movement. So we should try to encourage everyone to understand and experience the sweetness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sweetness of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, the devotees. And part of that is this associating with the devotees. We should be, if we go out and we preach or whatever we're doing, if we're happy and blissful in it, then once people ask, well, how did you become so happy and blissful? We can invite them to come with us, find out. Yes?
Yesterday you said that disciple cannot go higher level as guru if he is not on Uttama platform. And my question...
Oh, I just got confused by what you just said. What did you just say?
Spiritual master can be also in a lower platform of...
Yeah.
And if somebody choose this spiritual master, cannot go...
I didn't say that.
No?
No.
Okay, then.
So, first thing is, I quoted from Prabhupada's Nectar of Instruction that one should understand the position of others, what level of spiritual attainment they have. One should also understand one's own position. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us a hint that one can understand who's an Uttama by his ability to convert many others into Vaishnavas. One should not become a spiritual master unless he's attained the platform of Uttama. A neophyte devotee and an intermediate devotee can also accept disciples, but such disciples should be on the same level, should we understand they can't advance very well due to insufficient guidance. Therefore, one should be careful to accept an Uttama Adhikari as one's spiritual master. I just quoted from Prabhupada. Now, who's that Uttama Adhikari? It's Prabhupada's instructions. In other words, if we follow Prabhupada's instructions and serve, whether it's our Shiksha Gurus or our Diksha Guru, whatever, according to the instructions that Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada's example, his instructions, then we're serving an Uttama Adhikari. then whatever deficiency there may be in our other instructors, but that's not important. That's not so important. The fact that we're serving them under the intelligence, the inspiration, the guidance of the Super Soul and the Uttama Adhikari, then whatever we're doing will be perfectly Krishna conscious. And the instructions, for the most part, that our Shiksha Gurus are giving, or the Diksha Gurus, are perfect. They're completely in line, so we don't have to worry about that. But we should know, otherwise our society has deviated, and still is deviating to a certain extent. So we should know things clearly, and if we know things clearly, then whatever we're doing will be perfect. And we'll be able to help the society, enlighten the society, to make the society perfect, others perfect. Yes?
Hare Krishna. If I properly understand, you say that one devotee, that Srila Prabhupada say that one devotee will not go in the spiritual world because offense one devotee. So my question is, how I check or I know that once I, in a past, unconsciously didn't offend somebody.
How do we know?
Yes.
Well, we don't know, we don't know.
So
but one of the things we can understand is if we weren't offensive towards the devotees, if our minds were completely clear of offenses, then we'd have a taste for chanting the holy name. But when we don't have a taste for chanting the holy name, it means we're committing offenses. So what's the result? What should we do? We should try to stop committing the offenses against the holy name. And then everything else will be all right. So we have to pay attention when we're chanting, try to chant as nicely as possible, try and understand how to, we should read Prabhupada's books and find out what he says about how we should act in such a way is that we can become a pure devotee of Krishna, how to act as a pure devotee. And then we will have loving exchanges with the devotees and there won't be any problem, it won't be a question of committing offenses, because our relationships will be loving and we'll be in the mood of service to the devotees. So rather than dwell on the fact that I might be committing offense, we should dwell on the fact that I have an opportunity to serve the devotees. And then there's no offense whatsoever. It's pure devotional service. Is that okay? It's not that we see a devotee and I was thinking, well, I better get out of here, I might offend them. We see a devotee and we think, wow, here's an opportunity to do some service to Krishna and make some spiritual advancement. Therefore, as we read the other day, that amongst the devotees, even amongst the Kshatriyas, even if someone's your enemy, when he comes to your house, you treat him like a very dear friend and a guest. In other words, the Vedic culture is made in such a way as to turn our enemies into our friends, to have a favorable attitude. So, we're devotees, we're not about to fight with each other, hopefully. But our minds are a little agitated, so therefore we have to stop, not pay attention to our agitated mind, pay attention to the instructions of our pure devotee, like Prabhupada's example and instructions. And then forget about the agitated mind and do something, surrender to become an instrument for them. And then Krishna will empower us to become a nice instrument in his service. If we agree to do it, that's all. Anything else? Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribo.
Jasno, sasvim.
tirtha. So